Ever catch yourself wondering why someone would stay in a relationship that just seems troubled? Well, today we're going deep into a story that really gets at that question.
Okay, I'm ready. Lay it on me.
All right, so there's this post, the title, "Girlfriend of 5 years has made me question everything."
Whoa, that title alone sounds heavy.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
And it is. This 23-year-old guy is laying it all out there, talking about this relationship that's been, well, a roller coaster. Like right away, he talks about some early red flags. Early on, he was kind of seeing someone else, and his girlfriend found out.
Oof. Yeah, not the best way to start things off. Trust is like the foundation, right?
Yeah.
Coming back from that can be tough.
Yeah, for sure. And it kind of set the tone for everything after. He talks about her lying about being with a friend, even getting her friend in on it.
Wow.
And get this. He says, and this is a quote, "It broke me into 1,000 pieces. Why? She broke up with him twice, just to, as he says, see if he cared."
Oh, come on. That's not testing the waters. That's messing with someone's head. It seems like maybe she was creating drama on purpose, making him insecure.
Right. And he kept trying to show her he cared. Flowers, chocolates, taking her on trips. But instead of being happy about it, all he got was, he says, indifference. It's like she didn't know how to accept love, like in a healthy way.
That's interesting. Some people really struggle with receiving love, don't they? Makes you wonder what's behind it. Why push away instead of embracing it?
Totally. And anytime they had an argument, forget actually talking it out, she'd go straight to social media instead of talking directly to him. He said he tried talking, texting, even sitting in the dark so there were no distractions. Nothing worked.
Dodging communication like that, that's a big warning sign in any relationship. Could mean she's afraid to be vulnerable or doesn't want to face the issues.
5 years into this relationship, things really blew up. She told him straight up she didn't love him anymore. And she admitted she'd been seeing someone else. He was crushed, obviously, and ended it. Starts dating a new woman, someone he describes as a breath of fresh air. Someone who actually treated him with kindness and affection. Thought he'd finally found a good thing,
Yeah, it seems like he got a taste of what a healthy relationship could feel like. Makes what happened next even more, confusing.
Yeah, get this. His ex comes back into the picture. And despite all that happened, he goes back to her, breaks up with the new woman, tries to make it work with his ex again.
Wait, he leaves what sounds like a good thing to go back to all that drama and hurt?
I know, right? He even says, "I'm a sucker for crazy." It's like he's drawn to this messed up dynamic, even though it's hurting him.
It's wild, isn't it? Human behavior, I mean. Sometimes even when it's unhealthy, the familiar feels better than the unknown. Like choosing a devil you already know instead of a new one.
And it doesn't stop there. He takes a job in another country, works 2 weeks on, 1 week off. And during his time off, they see each other. She even starts talking about maybe having a family.
Almost like she was dangling that future, trying to keep him invested even though her actions, well, anyway.
You guessed it. More drama. Talking about family, but she's sleeping with her brother's friend. He confronts her, and she gaslights him, calls him delusional.
We should probably explain what gaslighting is for anyone listening. It's a manipulation tactic. It's where someone tries to make the other person doubt their own sanity, doubt what they're seeing. It can really do a number on someone, especially in a relationship that's already shaky.
Absolutely. It's not just a disagreement, it's making someone question their own memories and experiences. She does eventually admit to it, but get this. She says she did it out of spite, to hurt him. And then, another crazy twist. She tells him she's pregnant, then blocks him everywhere.
Man, the emotional roller coaster just never ends. Sounds like she was testing him, his love, his sanity, all the time.
Right. They finally connect again, and she admits she faked the pregnancy. Again, just to see how he'd react.
This keeps coming up, right? Testing his loyalty, his love. That's disturbing. It shows she needs to be in control, that she doesn't care about his feelings. I mean, why is he putting up with this?
Yeah. It's a question a lot of people are asking after reading this. The comments are full of opinions and advice, some more blunt than others.
Okay, let's get into that advice. I'm curious what people had to say about this whole wild ride.
All right, so what kind of advice are we talking about? It sounds like people had some strong opinions.
Oh yeah, lots of them were straight to the point. Telling him to run, basically. They called her, well, toxic and trash. No holding back.
Ouch, yeah. Harsh words, but it sounds like people were worried about him. They saw how unhealthy it all was and wanted to protect him, I guess. It's a natural reaction, right? Seeing someone you care about stuck in a bad situation. Like everyone was collectively trying to shake him awake. But there were also people who were more, gentle. suggesting he focus on himself, on healing, and finding someone who actually appreciates him.
Yeah, I think it shows there are different ways to help someone. Sometimes it takes tough love. Sometimes it's more about gently nudging them towards self-care and thinking things through.
You know, there's this one comment that really stuck with me. It said, the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference.
That's deep. It kind of points to that emotional disconnect that can happen, right? Sometimes when you've been hurt over and over, it's easier to just shut down than to keep feeling the pain.
So it's like a defense mechanism, protecting yourself.
Exactly, shielding yourself from more hurt.
There was this other comment that used a really interesting analogy too. Someone compared the relationship to a breasted albatross.
Oh yeah, right. The albatross, it's usually seen as the symbol of a burden, right? And with the breasted part, it gives you this feeling of being weighed down, like something's holding you back, keeping you from taking off. I think it captures how trapped you must feel, suffocated almost.
Yeah, like the relationship isn't giving him life anymore. It's just this heavy thing he has to carry around.
We've talked about the advice to leave and the advice to focus on healing, but I think there's another layer here too, right? Trying to understand why he might be attracted to this kind of relationship in the first place.
Right, because just saying run doesn't really address the root of it, does it? What's keeping him there?
Exactly. So let's dive into that a little. One possibility is that it's, well, unpredictable. It's like an addiction almost. You're hooked on the highs and the lows.
Like being on a roller coaster. Thrilling and terrifying at the same time.
And for some, that roller coaster is more exciting than a calm, steady kind of relationship. We all have different needs, different things we're drawn to, right?
For sure. And sometimes those desires lead us down paths that aren't the healthiest.
Yeah. Another factor could be self-esteem. If someone's already struggling with feeling insecure, they might be drawn to partners who kind of confirm those negative beliefs. It's a vicious cycle, but it can become like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
So like subconsciously seeking out relationships that make you feel unworthy.
That's it. Like they're trying to prove themselves right, that they're not good enough. And a lot of times, that comes from not loving and accepting yourself.
I get it. And then there's that element of control, or the illusion of control maybe, like trying to win over someone who's emotionally unavailable. It creates a challenge, a sense of purpose almost.
It's like chasing a moving target, constantly trying to prove yourself worthy, trying to earn their love, which just ends up leaving you exhausted and drained.
Because you never actually get that validation you're seeking. And you keep sacrificing your own well-being to try and get it.
Now, let's not forget about early childhood experiences too. If someone grew up in a chaotic environment, or maybe they were emotionally neglected, they might unconsciously seek out partners who recreate those familiar dynamics.
So like, they're playing out old patterns, trying to heal old wounds through these romantic relationships.
Yeah, but it's really important to remember that real healing requires self-awareness and a willingness to break free from those patterns, which can be really tough when you're caught up in all those intense feelings.
Like trying to untangle a knot from the inside, right? It takes time, awareness, and maybe even some help from others to really see the big picture.
For sure. One last thing I want to touch on. Validation seeking. We all need to feel seen, heard, appreciated, Ray, but for some, that need is much stronger, especially if they've experienced a lot of rejection or neglect.
So they look for partners who can give them that validation, even if it's only temporary or unhealthy.
That's right. Remember how she cheated because some guy called her pretty? Superficial, yeah, but it clearly had a huge impact on her.
It's like her sense of self-worth depends on what other people think, instead of coming from within.
And that's really the core issue, isn't it? True validation comes from loving and accepting yourself, flaws and all. When you have that inner strength, you don't need to look for it from others, especially in unhealthy ways.
So it's not just about getting out of a bad relationship. It's about figuring out what's going on deeper down, the patterns, the unmet needs, the things that might be pulling someone back into that toxic dynamic.
Exactly. And that understanding is the first step to building healthier, more fulfilling relationships. Because ultimately, we all deserve a love that nourishes us, not one that drains us.
So we talked about the thrill of the unknown, self-esteem struggles, and wanting that validation. But even knowing it's toxic, why is it so hard to actually leave a relationship like this?
That's the big question, isn't it? It often comes down to a mix of things. Attachment, fear, and that tricky comfort of familiarity.
Okay, break that down for me. Attachment, in this case, it's more than just like liking someone, right?
Right. It's about those deep emotional bonds we form, often starting way back, like in our earliest relationships. Those early bonds can actually shape how we connect with romantic partners later on.
So how we were treated as kids affects how we attach to people as adults.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Think about someone who didn't have consistent care growing up, or maybe they were emotionally neglected. They might develop what's called an anxious attachment style, always needing reassurance, wanting validation.
So in this story, that could be why he goes back to her, even after all the hurt.
It's possible he might be subconsciously looking for that security and love he missed out on, hoping that maybe, this time, things will be different.
Which is tough, because she clearly can't give him that emotional support he needs.
And that's where the fear of the unknown kicks in. Even when a relationship's toxic, ending it can be scary. Stepping outside your comfort zone, the uncertainty of being alone, maybe starting over.
Like the saying, better the devil you know.
Exactly. And for some people, that fear is paralyzing. It feels easier to stick with what they know, even if it hurts, than to face the unknown.
But like we see here, and I'm sure many people have experienced this themselves, staying in something toxic just stops everyone from growing and healing.
Absolutely. Staying when it's not working anymore, it's like trying to grow a plant in bad soil. It might hang on for a while, but it won't thrive.
So how do you break free? Where do you even start?
First step. Admitting to yourself that it's unhealthy, that staying will just make things worse. Be honest about your needs and if they're actually being met.
It's not a lot of soul searching.
It is, and it can be hard, but you have to face those truths about the relationship and yourself. Ask yourself, am I truly happy? Am I being respected? Do I feel safe and supported? If it's no, then it might be time to think about letting go.
Walking away is tough, though. What advice would you give someone who's struggling with that?
Getting support is huge. Friends, family, a therapist. They can give you the strength and encouragement to handle those tough emotions, like having a lifeline when you're lost.
Makes sense. You need people to help you stay afloat when you're letting go of something that felt important.
And remember, healing takes time. You'll have good days and bad days. Be patient. Every step forward, even a tiny one, is a win. You're moving towards something healthier, happier.
A future where love doesn't have to feel like a battle.
Exactly. Love should be joyful, supportive, where you both grow together. It shouldn't leave you feeling drained all the time.
That's powerful. We all deserve a love that lifts us up, not one that drags us down.
Couldn't agree more. And even though we focused on this one story, I think what we talked about applies to a lot of relationships out there.
It's about seeing those red flags, knowing your worth, and knowing that sometimes the most loving thing is to let go, to make space for healing.
We've covered a lot today: attachment, fear, self-awareness. But as we wrap up, I want to leave you with something to think about.
Okay, go ahead.
We talked about why people stay in toxic relationships. But what about the other side? What does a healthy relationship look like? One that's supportive, loving, where love actually thrives and brings joy to both people.
That's a great question to consider. It's not just about avoiding the bad stuff, but actually looking for and nurturing the good stuff.
Exactly. So as you think about this story and your own experiences, remember the key things. Respect yourself, notice those red flags, and don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it.
Because you deserve a love that helps you blossom, not one that makes you wilt. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning.